We could be anything. Anything. I'll be there for you when you were all alone. I'll be there for you, 'cause I know that I'll be there for you when you were all alone. Oh, I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there. Oh, I'll be there for you.
I'll be there for you. Hey, here are 3 keys to living a fulfilling life. It is about inspiration, discipline, and surrendering to purpose. I bet you didn't think that. So stay tuned. We are going to talk more about stretching ourselves to have a more fulfilling life. We are your daily energy bite, and we are helping you to live a life and health of your dreams. Hey, OJ, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Great. So nice to be here once again.
Yay. All right. So I want to start. So today is kind of the culmination of putting everything together. We've had 2 prior days where we've talked about uh, goal setting and stretching yourself to have a more fulfilling life, how you could do it, what the 4 areas are that you're going to stretch in. So I wanted to do a little bit of a recap, and then basically that summary and the keys to doing it are all today, and then we're going to wrap it up in a nice bow, and then it's going to be so easy. All right. So if you want to go beyond setting goals, to have a certificate on the wall, or maybe, show off some achievement you have, a new car, new house, whatever it is, how much money you want to make, da 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 da. Think of all the goals that you can set. Then you want to be setting, living I think everybody would like to be living a fulfilling life. And that goes beyond, that's the life of your dreams. And that goes beyond just goal setting. And you really need to rethink how you set your goals and how you do it. And so here is a real key to that. The purpose of setting goals is not to achieve the goal, believe it or not, but it's about who you become in the process of achieving the goal. And while you're going after that goal, that is where you're going to get your fulfilling life and where you're going to find it. And so instead of thinking about just setting goals, we want to think about stretching ourselves. And what does that mean? So stretching yourself means that you are getting yourself out of your comfort zone. We all love our comfort zone. OJ, my comfort zone in the morning is my nice hot shower. Oh my gosh, that is like the best comfort zone.
Yay.
Guess what I do at the end of my shower just to shake it up? Even though I think every day I think, no, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. But I still do it. I end my shower with a cold shower. And that is to make sure that my brain doesn't think and doesn't get used to that comfort zone. I want my brain and my body to know it's not all about comfort. And so comfort is where you don't take any risks, your comfort zone. And it's where you're within the limits of yourself. You don't have to stretch yourself at all. So we are going to get out of our comfort zone and stretch ourselves. And every morning I stretch myself by trying to go a little bit more every day under that cold water and make it just a little bit colder. Yeah. All right. So hopefully it's helping. So why should we stretch ourselves out of our comfort zone? And what does that take? Well, we need to stretch out of our comfort zone because that's where the growth happens. If you're in your comfort zone, you're not going anywhere. And so we want to go up and have a more fulfilling life if you want that. And I hopefully if you're here, it's because you do want a more fulfilling life. So let's talk about the 4 things that we should be stretching. All right. We should be stretching ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So I'm just going to give a recap on those because we talked about those over the last 2 days. So physically, the ways that we can stretch ourselves physically is by what we take into our system. So what we eat, including what we drink, and also our exercise. So those are the 2 things that we can do. And you start off setting your sights on what you're going to stretch to something that's achievable for you. So if you're a sedentary right now, you might set your sights to walk 3 kilometers or a mile and a half, whatever that is. Maybe you set, walking to the mailbox and back, whatever, some goal. And at some point, hopefully, you're going to make that, and that's going to be in your comfort zone. And so then you need to look at stretching and setting another goal. So it just keeps on growing. So these, once you get back in your comfort zone after you've stretched yourself, then you need to move to the next comfort zone. It's like if you're in a job, you start off maybe as the analyst, and then you stretch yourself to the senior analyst, and then you stretch yourself to the next step and the next step on the way. And so the more you stretch yourself, the faster you're going to go to whatever level you want to go to. So hopefully that's a good analogy for you as well. Then we can stretch ourselves mentally. So mentally, we want to look at stretching ourselves. Education is a good way to stretch yourself mentally. But in addition to that, we can do some concentration exercises, and we can learn how to develop our memory. You could, my exercise I said yesterday is to get out a book, and count the first 100 words. Start at 1 word, wherever. You could just pick a page and start at the beginning of a paragraph and count 100 words. And when you get to 100 words, then count those words backwards back to the beginning and see if you actually end up at the same place. And so this is developing your focus, and is really good for your concentration. And focus is one of the keys. Now, you can also learn from the great people that came before us in history and learn some of the lessons from them. There are a lot of our forefathers and sisters, whatever you want to call it, that have provided us with amazing learnings. If you go back, you can go back to 2,500 years and learn from some of the people that came before us and what they said, and that's another way to do it. You want to also stretch yourself emotionally. So you want to get out of your being egocentric, where everything is about me, and move to being more what I call world centric, where it's not about you, it's about how can I serve. So how can I serve the people in my community? How can I serve my country? How can I serve my world? Whatever you want to think of there. And so this is where you're looking at focusing on the greater good. And it's not just about what would be good for me. It's about leadership in action. And what are you doing when nobody's looking? That's the real key. So one of the examples we said is, if you're in a park and there's a coffee cup, maybe a Starbucks or whatever coffee cup on the ground, do you pick it up and put it in the garbage, or do you just leave it there and walk, look at it and walk by? So if you're looking at the greater good, you're going to pick it up and put it in the garbage. Hopefully there's a garbage can close by. That's for sure. And then our fourth way is spiritually. So when we're stretching ourselves spiritually, I know everybody has their own kind of way that they want to think spiritually, but it's about giving a deeper meaning to life. It, yeah, and that whatever that means to you, and it's about your own journey, but it's something to do, and this is all these four things that as you go, you stretch yourself. Remember, as I said, it's a journey. It's not a destination, and a lot of times people will think about stretching themselves, and that's all good, but we as humans are always looking for an end point. And so this is why this becomes hard, is because there's no end point. And I don't know if you've ever started something. I'm going to just say, like when I decided to go plant-based, I I did it because I knew that it would be healthier for me, but that's all. I didn't know a lot about it. But I did know that, and I made that decision to go plant-based. And if I look back on that journey and where I started, I had just one thing in mind. But as I went, my knowledge of plant-based grew, and my understanding from various documentaries and books and other things all grew, and it brought me here on this journey to this point, and my journey's not over. But I would never in a million years have been able to think when I started that journey where I would end up. And all I started to do was to stretch myself to eat some more plants. I had no idea where that was going to take me. So again, that's about stretching yourself a little bit by little bit. And don't forget, there's no finish line. And I know we talked yesterday that, maybe the finish line is when you die, which is true, when you take your last breath. So think about it this way, especially for the spiritually. How do you want to, if you think about yourself on your deathbed, how do you want to remember your life? And I know from, I haven't talked to anybody on their deathbed, but certainly when people are at that point, they're not thinking about, oh, I should have worked more hours at work. Or I'm so glad I got that trophy over there. It's, people are always thinking about their relationships and how they served, and what kind of a person they were when they did it. So I know it sounds morbid to talk about, that final finish line, but it's not a bad idea to think about that. And how do you want to remember yourself and your life? And that might help put things into perspective for you. So that's the recap of what we've been talking about on this whole stretching yourself and being able to develop into, your fulfilling life. So we're going to go through the three keys to make it work now. So number one is inspiration. That's the number one. So there are two kinds of people in this world. There are those that are who are inspired, and those that are not. And believe it or not, for every one person who's inspired, there are 20 people who are just waiting to see what the inspired people are doing. and putting forth so that they can maybe decide if they want to participate in it. So then your question is, do you want to be one of those inspired versus the 20 people that are sitting on the sidelines, just kind of watching it go by, and on that end. And so the key to being inspired is actually to get outside of yourself. So that means that it's not about you. It's not about, you have to leave that egocentric side of you behind, and think about it. It's not about you. And so just kind of another thing to think about is there's a difference between motivation and inspiration. So you can be motivated to do something and to do what it takes to get something done. And then the but is, as long as it serves me, or as long as somebody doesn't tell me, until somebody tells me that it's not a good idea, until something. And so that's motivation. But if you're inspired, you don't care about whatever until might come along. You don't care about the good opinion of other people. If you know in your heart that you and your soul that what you're doing is the right thing to do, it's the decision that you've made is the right thing to do, then nobody is going to talk you out of that. So that kind of is what inspiration is over motivation. So then challenge you to get inspired. So that, the question then becomes, what moves you? What would you die for, maybe on that end? And then, whatever it is, go out and do it. And don't think too much about it. Just go out and do it. And I know, in my journey, definitely there's many things that have inspired me, and on the health journey, I've been inspired by, people, I guess, in different ways, from people that I know who've passed away, and seeing them going through some of the debilitating issues that they've gone through, and people who've died before their time. I've been inspired by my daughter who went through her journey with cancer, and inspired by knowing what food can do as medicine for us. And so I have those things that are inspiring to me, for sure. So then the second thing is discipline. And you never put discipline before inspiration. You have to have the inspiration first. So if you're inspired, then next is discipline. If there's no inspiration, it's not discipline, it's actually willpower. And willpower is unsustainable over the long term. So it works in the short term. And I know what willpower is. I've been on many yo-yo diets, and you have willpower to do it as long as you get to a certain point. But at some point, the willpower starts to weaken, and it might last a long time, but everything then falls down on the willpower once, at some point, if there's no inspiration. And so, just as an example, if you're not inspired to learn how to play the piano, you can play the piano and you can take lessons, but at some point you're not going to have the discipline to see it through, and continue. At some point, it's like, well, what am I doing this for? Because you're not inspired. So you need to make sure that you're inspired first. And so you have to have that mental discipline. And then you can, this is where those concentration exercises come in, because they can help the mental development, and the concentration can help you with that discipline, that mental discipline that you need. But again, without the inspiration, it's not going to be sustainable long term. And the third one, which is probably a little bit harder to grasp, it's a little bit out there, I guess, is surrendering to purpose. And so what does that mean? So surrendering to purpose to me means letting go. And you still are, doing things, but there's a difference between surrendering to purpose and just getting it done. And so to me, I view as kind of a metaphor of our life is that we're on the river of life, and you can flow down the river. There's going to be bends and turns, and it's not always going to be easy. There's going to be challenges along the way. Maybe there's rapids or something. But if you are surrendering to purpose, you are on the flow of the river and you're taking things as they come. But if you are not on the flow of the river, you're basically swimming upstream, trying to get the other way. And so I think the opposite of surrendering to purpose is when we have the determination and the conviction to do something, and we're inspired, we have the discipline, and we're going to make it happen no matter what. I'm going to make it happen. And it's like, I'm just going to force my way to make whatever happen. Whatever obstacle, I'm going to do whatever it takes. So you can see there's a lot more force and everything with that. And it takes a huge amount of effort when you're kind of swimming upstream, as you know, versus going with the flow. So it's kind of more like forcing it versus just kind of going with where things go and let it happen. But obviously, you're doing things. So it's like if I'm inspired to get a new place to live, whatever. I need to get a new place to live, or whatever you want to say. So I'm looking for a place to live. If I just go with the flow and say, oh, when a place comes up, I'll take it, is different than, I have to look for it too. So there's some actions you still have to do. Even if you're surrendering to purpose, you still have actions to do. It's just that you're not doing them with force, kind of letting everything fall off your shoulders and letting it all, just taking things as they come and not being too wound up about it and forceful about it. I hope that helps. Surrendering to purpose is changing from forcing it and struggling to have it happen, taking a weight off your shoulders. And it's like being a loyal servant versus a warrior to get it done. So we want to surrender to purpose if we can. It's always a nice place to be if you can do that. So if you are stretching yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, you will have a totally different journey than if you're just setting goals to get a certificate on the wall, to make so much money, to buy a house, whatever it is in your life that you might be setting goals for. So get inspired. Think beyond yourself. Remember to get out of your comfort zone and fasten your seat belts on the river of life and grow and learn. So that's kind of the whole thing, all wrapped up. Any questions? Hey, Kathy.
Hi. So what if you can never get to 3? What if you can get to 1 and 2, but 3 just doesn't happen?
Well, 1 and 2 are better than 3. But if you can't get, I got to tell you, if you can't get to 3, you have to come see me. I can help you get to 3.
Okay.
Yeah, it isn't always easy. For sure, it's not easy. But really, getting to 3, in my mind, is raising your level of your consciousness, is what it means. So yeah, I mean, there's some work that you need to do to get there, but it is possible. Again, that's part of stretching yourself, for sure. But it's definitely possible. and certainly makes things a lot less stressful, a lot easier on yourself, a lot less stressful for sure.
Okay, thank you.
But a good question. That's a good question. All right. So if you are ready now to elevate your life, you want to live a life fulfilling and raise your standards, then you can contact me to grab our exclusive workbook that we have. I talked about it yesterday. I would just want to say there's no cost to it, and you can kickstart your journey to creating a life you love. And so remember to join us tomorrow as well. We're going to be back on Sprouts for the last couple of days of the week. And I just want you to remember, I've said this so many times, it's a journey. And I'm going to go back to one of my favorite quotes. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Don't forget that. And just take that first step. That's all I ask. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.